We are live.
Okay, well, we want to welcome you all to our very first episode of the SUMADI podcast, We Connect Raw and Real Edition. And we want you to get ready to dive into the world of innovation and education, technology, online learning, and online testing. Our goal is to bring you thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and real stories from industry leaders and visionaries that have shaped the future of education. I'm your host, Jennifer Roski. And as a part of the SUMADI team, we have the privilege of sitting down with a true trailblazer in the field of proctoring solutions, the founder of SUMADI himself, Raul Rivera. SUMADI, a company synonymous with innovation, has revolutionized the way we approach examination security and integrity. And at the helm of this groundbreaking endeavor is our esteemed guest today, Raul. And with years of experience and a visionary mindset, he has not only identified the challenges faced by educational institutions, certification programs, and online learning platforms, but he's also pioneered cutting-edge solutions that have redefined proctoring as we know it. And so, Raul, I want to thank you for joining us today. And as we kick off, I want to have you give an opportunity to tell us a little bit about yourself, such as your background and how you came to be a leader within the world of the proctoring space. I don't want to interrupt because I know you are telling us some really good information, but unfortunately we cannot hear you right now. It looks like that your mic might have went off, so my apologies.
One, two. Can you hear me, Jen, now?
We can hear you, yes. So I know you were giving us some good information, so I'm going to turn it back over to you. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yes, I apologize for that. We were just having, I was just trying a new microphone here, but it seems like it's working now. So yes, I was saying, thank you for having me, first of all. And, I'm so excited about the opportunity of being in this first raw and real edition of the SUMADI podcast, right? So to answer your question, so I started 12 years ago in the education industry, in EdTech particularly, when I decided to first join Laureate Education, big network of institutions around the world. What I liked most about the experience was the opportunity to travel around the world to understand, the nuances of operations around the world related to institutions that were in higher education, right? My mission there back in the day was just to allow institutions from a technology standpoint to progress through the transition from face-to-face models all the way to hybrid models or online models, right? And it was interesting because it allowed me to really understand what was critical, right? And I saw the need in many emerging markets of coming up enabling or having access to a proctoring solution, right? So I decided to venture into the creation of our own proctoring solution called SUMADI, which actually stands for intelligence in one of the native dialects that we have here in Honduras, where I am from. And it resulted very successful. And then we decided to actually venture outside of Laureate, and we brought it to market with a very successful, I would say, adoption and I would say market reaction around the world, particularly in Latin America, right? So I'm excited to be here and having the chance to share my experience with everybody and what is SUMADI all about.
Great, thank you. And it's interesting that your journey began really with a rich immersion in, I would say, corporate culture, right? So navigating, I would say, the intricate world of global business. So essentially, can you tell us a little bit more? I think you touched on it briefly about the inspiration behind creating SUMADI and entering the proctoring market.
Yeah, well, the inspiration was basically, the goal, the drive that we had on allowing our emerging markets, particularly in Latin America, to bring a solution or allow more accessibility to education, right? Our countries in Latin America, with something already well known in the world, we don't have an economy that is strong enough to give everybody access to a high level of education, right? And technology for us was always, the means through which, we could allow people in remote locations to have access to education, right? And then we saw an opportunity to participate in the journey right at the end, which is the examination itself, right? And again, that's the most critical part. So when after we had been working with Laureate, allowing and enabling education through technology, we saw that the most important part of the journey is the final certification or examination of your knowledge, right? So we saw a great opportunity. I had a lot of engineers in my team. I still do now. SUMADI is way bigger than what it used to be 4 years ago. But because of that potential of engineers, and having been through the experience of different operations of different institutions around the world, we thought of ourselves to be in a very positive position to create a product that was 100% going to be accepted by the market, right? So the inspiration was, students around the world having access to education, because we believe that through education, we impact societies in a very positive way, and we change people's lives. Basically, I mean, that was really behind, it's always been behind, every hour of work that we put into SUMADI, a part of our culture and our vision, Jen.
No, and I think that's great in how you touch on ensuring that everyone has access to education. We know education is power, right? And having that knowledge is key. And so you also touched on the piece about, there being special circumstances in terms of, the economy, or there being the budget process, right? So when you think about what were some of those specific challenges when introducing an AI-based proctoring solution to already a mature market? And you had mentioned LATAM, so very curious, what were some of those challenges there?
Yes, and I would say on top of the ones that you mentioned, the challenges that we had was trying to create a company within a big corporation like L'Oreal, right? In a corporate environment, right? There was a lot of risk adversity that I had to face internally within the corporation and go into the markets, right? So that was the first key challenge that we faced, right? But we believed in the product. My team and I were really, really, really confident that we had something very, very valuable to the markets, right? And at the end, the corporate structure of Laureate facilitated the actual go-to-market of SUMADI, right? I know it sounds a bit contradictory, but there was a lot of work put into, creating legal entities, creating trademarks, creating, the name, right? And having the legal support structure, finance support structure as well. But at the end of the day, that's part of the corporate world, right? So that was the first challenge. When it comes to AI, it was interesting, and it still is, right? AI, is something that scares a lot of people, right? Particularly in Latin America, when COVID, the pandemic hit the world, we saw that Latin America was very courageous, right? So the willingness to adopt solutions with AI was strong. I think that the need actually just increased significantly because of the pandemic. But then on also in addition to that, we saw that institutions in LATAM were willing to trust AI more than in more mature markets, right? Like in the United States and also in Europe, right? But what I have to say is that what allowed us to give confidence to our customers in all markets, not only LATAM, but also US and in Europe, was the fact that we were and still are very diligent when it comes to data protection, security, making sure that our AI is not biased against things like gender and race, right? So we are always being very diligent on our technology efforts, right? So when you talk to an institution, when we offer our services and when we are offering our services, we stress the importance of the work that we have done already and the achievements that we have made in terms of data protection and security and how they can rely on the AI the way it's built inside of SUMADI, right? So I think those are key challenges that you mentioned, and that is the way that we've approached them, right? So we have talented individuals, right, on terms that are related to legal terms related to IT security, compliance with data protection regulations like GDPR in Europe, right, and others. And we're constantly improving. We're testing our tool. We're doing ethical hackings, right? We have monthly security reports that we address. We assess risks. So I guess that it boils down to the diligence that we apply to our operations. That is how we are now getting more confidence from the markets when it comes to positioning an AI-based proctoring solution, right?
You bring up a really good point in terms of the data privacy. I think a lot of people, when they hear AI, maybe I'm showing my age here, I think of others or think of the Terminator, right? Skynet, they think of this big brother watching you, right? And that's not the case, right? And I think you touched on some key points there of why the market has, especially a mature market, they're starting to become more knowledgeable and understand what an AI-based proctoring solution can do for them, right? In terms of scaling, right? So really you brought up some great points there. It's going to lead to my next question. So, when you talk about the AI-based proctoring solution, how did you differentiate SUMADI from existing proctoring solutions in terms of technology and features that are already in the marketplace?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jen, and it's a question that I am asked all the time, right? Going to what you mentioned about Skynet and the Terminator, people just thinking that AI is going to take over the world and people getting nervous about it. And now we have ChatGPT and all this, big AI fuss, right? I always said to people right from the beginning, AI is not going to replace, a human being, right? At the end of the day, and related to SMART specifically, what we're doing is that we're enhancing, the human capabilities or capacity of proctoring and examination when it's remotely and done massively, right? We're enhancing humans and we're also augmenting their capacity, right? So that's key. That's key of what we're doing when it comes to that particular situation. Your question, Jen, went specifically around, what else are we doing, right? When it comes to ensuring the differentiator, right? So what I just said, is the key thing, right? We are very modular, I would say, in terms of all the AI features that it would enhance the supervision and reporting process of a proctoring service, right? So we've been partnering with very good firms like Gartner, for instance, understanding where the market is going. And what we have identified is that for any proctoring service provider out there in the market today globally, what is going to be key is the capacity of adapting to different operation or operating models. So we know this because of our history with Laureate. Every academic operation is different. Within the same country, imagine, across different countries, you would see the variety of operations. So it's really hard to find a one size fits all when it comes to a proctoring service, right? So keeping that in mind, and we know this, we've known this for a few years already, because again, we spoke with Gartner, we designed our solution in the most modular way possible, right? So we have multiple features. Some of them are AI based, others are not. But what is different of us is that a customer can just pick and choose from what I would say a menu of possibilities when it comes to features, and they can be adapted easily to the operation of an institution or to what they expect that the reports are need to to produce when it comes to decision making, right? So that is key. The other aspect that Gardner stressed a lot was how we comply with integration standards, right? So we are LTI 1.3 compliant, right? And we also use QTI standards. We're constantly trying to maintain our integration layer as standard compliant as possible, so that we're easily adapted and integrated to, I would say, the most well-renowned homegrown LMSs or testing platforms around the world. But also our API layer is robust enough that if we are trying to integrate into a homegrown system, sorry, it is really easy for us to connect and adapt, right? So I think those two things are critical when it comes to what the future has, what we envision of how the future of this industry will be. So we're staying very close to our product team, developing new features, ensuring that they're modular, ensuring that our integration layer is robust enough to comply to multiple needs of customers around the world.
Thank you. And I think that really answered my next question, is really sharing any success stories or notable achievements, right, that SUMADI's accomplished in challenging the established players in the market. And you touched on that, right? Being able to be modular. It's not a one size fits all, but are there any other success stories outside of those two items that you shared that are notable achievements for SUMADI?
I would say, scalability, for instance, the SUMADI is capable of managing big concurrency levels, right? And when it comes to a market segment like professional certifications, or I would say the public sector in many countries in LATAM, and I'm pretty sure it applies to other more mature markets, you normally would expect examinations to happen massively in one single day or in a weekend, right? And we partnered with AWS, right? And we have done a lot of work when it comes to architectural design of our tool, so that we are able to ensure more than 99.9% of uptime, right? And while managing, I would say, more than 40 to 60,000 concurrent users or exam takers taking an exam at the same time within an hour, 2 or 3 hours consecutively. I think that is a huge win, and we really feel proud about it. It's a lot of work, and we are grateful of the partnership that we have with AWS, and also to our engineers in the architecture and security team, who are the ones who actually make it happen, right? So that is a key differentiator, right? So it's a proven I would say, success story. And I would just add that don't take my word for it. Actually, we made history in the country of Colombia back in 2020 when a public institution decided to run a massive amount of examinations for the first time online with a proctoring solution. And this is examinations for students that are, it's an admission testing for students who are going for the first time to the university, right? So we made history, and I think that obviously we had a great solution, great AI, great features, modular and everything. But what made the difference was the ability of SUMADI of managing a massive amount of concurrent users at the same time.
And that's amazing. And really, when you think about it, I would say, as a pioneer, right, of cutting edge proctoring solutions, to be able to do that at scale is extraordinary, right? So leads me to my next question. And what were the initial reactions, let's say, from some of your first clients, right, and users when they encountered the SUMADI's AI-based proctoring solution, for example?
The first question is, how much can we really trust AI, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you guys ensure integrity when it comes to artificial intelligence, right? Is it biased? How is it really biased? And how can we guarantee that things like identical twins, for instance, are going to be differentiated, right? How do you manage the amount of evidence that a proctoring solution produces, right? And that directly puts you into how efficient your reports are created, right? So those are the key questions. The other question is, how much is it going to cost us, right? Obviously, institutions would say, okay, this is a very good tool, AI technology is expensive. And it immediately translated to some institutions, or to all of them, into additional OpEx costs, right? So the question to us was, okay, what is the value that you bring? How can I counter that cost, right? And the answer is it's not one for everybody, but I'd say the possibilities of answers to that question was that you can expand your reach, right? You can reduce your operations, and you can eliminate some hidden costs, like, how much it costs you to actually schedule an in-person test, right? And we had to be able to word that out for each institution specifically. And it's a different story from one institution to the other, right? So those were the key things that, were asked to us when we brought this to the market, right? And what's interesting also, Jen, touching on that point, is that many institutions, they just didn't know what they didn't know about the operation when it comes to implementing a proctoring solution. So it all resulted also, I would say, in additional requests of new features that were identified by the customers. So we saw, and we always see, an opportunity to partner with each of our customers in terms of designing new features and developing new features, fast enough for them to be implemented and start adding value to the institution. So it's a different scenario for each institution. So the fact that we have a robust product team, very good talent when it comes to engineering, is what has allowed us to respond to those customer or market demands since we started back in, I would say, officially out the market in 2020.
Yeah, no, that's great. And you brought up that trust and credibility. And so when you think about, institutions or certification centers that were accustomed to, say, the traditional human proctoring methods, right? You think about technology as a whole, right? You're going back 20 plus years. We didn't really have the internet, right? We didn't have all of this technology today. And so sometimes for individuals, it's very slow for them to become acclimated to the new technology. And so you did touch on a key point there about gaining that trust and credibility by partnering, right? And really considering, the institution or the organization as a collaborative partner. Would you also consider transparency very key in that process of gaining trust and credibility?
Yes, it's really important, right? And when it comes to transparency, I specifically think about being transparent to our customers in what can be achieved by SUMADI and what is not ready yet, right? So being transparent is also key, right? At the end of the day, you're touching on a very important aspect, right? 10 to 12 years ago, there was no technology involved in the proctoring process. And we know for a fact that proctoring was needed, and there was a lot of proctoring done in person, right? For many certification centers. And obviously in normal higher education classrooms, right? Where you would have your professor actually just walk around the room, making sure that nobody cheated, right? Things have evolved, right? So how can we change the mindset of faculty members, certification center, I would say executives or owners, right? Even students, how can we change the mindset? So trust and transparency are forefront, paramount for us in terms of, understanding how the operation needs to change and making sure that each change that we do little by little towards an automated supervision is done properly, achieving the end goal that we have with examinations, which is to validate and certify the knowledge of a person, right, in any matter. So yeah, it's super important for us, and we're learning more and more. I would just say that Jen, right now, when it comes to the proctoring industry, I mean, the possibilities are infinite. If you come to think about it, market penetration in the United States for proctoring solutions is only 18%, right? And then you see 8% only in LATAM, right? So, and this is an industry that is growing because it's being led by the growth of online education as well, right? So, the future is uncertain right now. It's growing fast, but as we bring the new generations, right, who are expecting mobility 100%, everything for them has to be done online. We will have to face I would say the ever changing demand of the market, and proctoring solution providers need to be ready with the proper team and always assessing the market continuously, right? While taking decisions on how each proctoring solution provider needs to prioritize their services when it comes to different market segments. Yeah. So I would just say that those key points are important to keep in mind.
And would you say too that COVID really has opened up the mindset of maybe institutions or professional certifications that otherwise were not considering a proctoring solution prior. But really now the market is demanding, because I would say students or test takers really acclimated very well to wanting to now learn online, right? Because they're working, they're busy individuals, and they see the benefit, right, to being able to take their studies or complete their studies online. Do you see that COVID has had a lasting effect on just, the industry as a whole in terms of proctoring solutions?
Definitely, and I would say not only in with proctoring or for proctoring solutions, but in general for online higher education, right? I think that COVID proved that that was where the market was going in terms of expectations. And I would have to add and say very honestly that Laureate knew this almost 10 years ago already, right? And Laureate had a very strong initiative of transforming face-to-face instructional hour delivery into more of a hybrid model and online, as I said at the beginning, right? And I feel so grateful of having been a part of that, when the idea was just conceived and how we saw that, the markets were evolving. I think that COVID just proved what Laureate was onto, right? Over 10 years ago, right? So, and that just resulted in accelerating the, I would say, attractiveness of the proctoring providers, right, or solutions, right, for every market. So definitely, COVID was a very important catalyst or an accelerator to the attractiveness of proctoring solutions.
Yeah, agreed. And when you think about the competitive landscape, right, regardless of which territory, right, if you think of LATAM or the US or Europe, are there any specific strategies or tactics that you employ to successfully market and promote SUMADI?
We've learned a lot, Jen. This is nobody. We haven't found a unicorn in the proctoring industry. People tell me that a lot, right? So what I can tell you that we have learned is that when it comes to higher education, there is strong willingness in LATAM to do the adoption of proctoring solutions, right? But they have a strong challenge when it comes to their financials, right? Because this is a solution that requires financial investment, right? You see the returns if you have a strategy of expansion, right? And online, right? Otherwise, if you don't have a clear strategy as an institution in higher education on how you're going to transform your models into more online or hybrid ones, then you could struggle with the adoption of proctoring solutions. And then on the flip side of that, you have institutions that are 100% online, right? So, and they see a strong value and they are willing to invest the dollars, right? When it comes to proctoring solutions, right? We have customers that are actually strongly focused in I would say the examination, right? And they're willing to invest as many dollars as possible when it comes to all the technology required, not only the proctoring solution itself, but the testing engine or the test driver, as some call it, right? And even the operations around that. So it's very, I would say you have different colors when it comes to the markets across LATAM and the United States and Europe, right? What I would say is that it's key, as a proctoring provider, we in SUMADI, we make very, very diligent and educated decisions in terms of which markets we want to prioritize in the different regions that we have, right? And I would say that we have identified opportunities in the public sector, in the professional certification sector, particularly more I would say professional and mature markets. And higher education is still right now, in a process of stabilization when it comes to financials, but we're pretty sure that they will start, adopting proctoring solutions more and more as we see that the new generations are expecting education to be more mobile and remote, right? But to answer your question more succinctly, yes, we are assessing every market segment in every territory, and we're making decisions, very diligent ones, on how do we prioritize. We don't want right now to actually just boil the ocean, right? It's impossible. It's very complex. But we are pretty sure where we're stronger than our competitors. I would say that for us, Jan, professional certifications for SUMADI have proven to be one of the market segments that we can service more efficiently. With our tool, we're able to proctor high stakes exams, middle stakes exams, and low stakes exams, right? But the willingness of adoption, the financial possibilities for the professional certifications, just allow us to be more attractive in that market segment. Public sector, LATAM, also very strong on technology investments, right? And I would say that higher education is following third, but also showing a strong willingness to accelerate in the adoption.
I definitely agree there. And we talked a lot today about the evolution, right, of SUMADI since its inception. So can you talk about any new developments that we can expect in the future from SUMADI?
Definitely. So, live proctoring, I would say that we're changing the term live proctoring. We're bringing something different to the market. Because at the end of the day, what we're bringing to the market is an AI assisted live proctor, right? Which is not been seen before. That allows you to actually implement the most rigorous features for integrity, like for instance, dual camera with object detection, voice recognition, right? Allowing or enhancing the experience of the proctor, right? So allowing also as I said, two cameras that one would supervise, not only the identity of the person, but what the person is feeling actually when they're doing an examination, right? Producing data that is generating some, I would say, statistics that SUMADI then interprets and uses to generate reports and give recommendations to institutions, right? That is key. But a second camera that allows to check constantly the environment in which a student is, right? So again, I think we're starting to change the industry with what we're doing here, right? Just with those few things that I just mentioned. I think that AI will continue to evolve. And for us, it's key to partner with a strong, I would say, provider like AWS, because they are staying front and center when it comes to innovation in AI, right? And as we move along, we're going to be bringing to the market new features that will differentiate and would allow to guarantee integrity in the examinations, and always compete against, I would say, the natural proneness of students of cheating, right? And the creativeness that they would have. But to summarize your question, I would say, computer vision, sentiment analysis, dual camera, and all the additional AI components that enhance what a live proctor is doing when they are, proctoring an examination, right? And from there on, you can start to pick and choose and reduce the amount of features and human involvement according to the needs or to the stakes of the exams that you are supervising.
Great. And I do want to share, having working at SUMADI, right? I've been in the education space, technology space for many years, 15 plus years. This is one of the most passionate companies that I have ever worked for. You're very passionate about what you do, and also about delivering an amazing product to clients all around the world. And so, as a leader, right, a visionary leader, how do you keep that momentum going, right? And how do you think to that next step, right, in terms of that roadmap and development?
Yeah, I think that to keep the momentum going, I think it's important as leaders that you need to keep your team motivated, right? And it's interesting because the question that I ask myself all the time is whether motivation comes intrinsically or extrinsically, right? And I know that my personal perspective is that an individual gets intrinsic motivations for the most part, and those are the more important ones. But as a manager and leader, we also have an opportunity to give extrinsic motivators to the team, right? So what has been important to me is, just to allow the team to integrate, right? Individuals are the most important asset of a company, right? So hiring talent that also has a similar mindset has been instrumental to SUMADI, right? Fortunately, we've been able to do very well when it comes to our recruitment process. So that's one. Culture, right? Being able to allow for an inclusive culture that would allow an individual to feel comfortable in expressing their ideas, their thoughts, their fears when it comes to meetings, right? When it comes to addressing the needs of a customer, right? Being open and allowing a transparent and honest conversation with the people and within SUMADI has always been key, right? There's an important saying, one of my bosses, right? He said, we need to have openness in the debate and then commitment in the delivery, right? So that is also part of our culture, right? How we try to, there's titles in every corporation as well, but when we sit down and we address, the obstacles or opportunities that we see in SUMADI, everybody is seen as an equal, right? And everybody's given the opportunity to speak their mind and bring to the table, their ideas or their concerns, right? So that is key, right? And we're always, with our HR team, we're always, reaching out to our employees, just asking how they're feeling with the company, and if there's anything that we can do to integrate as a team, right? So those are key things that we need to keep in mind. And I would say, what motivates people is that here in SUMADI, we don't think of ourselves as competitors, right? There are other proctoring providers, right? It's not about taking a look to the side and see what our other companies are doing. Understanding that we're new in the industry, that is number one. But what we tell to our employees is that we shouldn't think of that as a weakness of ours, right? Because we came really strong into the market, right? But our focus should be on how do we become better every day with the services that we provide, with the technology that we provide. And that brings, some ease to our employees, right? So again, it's the job of a leader here is to integrate the team as much as possible. Get the proper people, right? Get the right people in the team, people who have strong intrinsic motivators, right? But that when you put together you know for sure that they're going to have great values like collaboration, for instance, innovation, right? Great communication, respect, those values, we make sure that people bring them to the table, right? Of course, they have very strong academic backgrounds or professional backgrounds, right? That is important too. But the values and morale are what people bring, and we're very, very cautious on our selection process. Once in the team, as I said, it's our mission to actually promote, working as a team and being very open, allowing people to feel vulnerable, right? And just being a catalyst in conversations and promoting good conversations and then transparent ones, right?
No, I think that's great. And that's going to lead to my next question. So, I get this a lot at events, or, I've mentored other young individuals that, myself, when I think about starting out in my career and going to college, I was a first generation college student, right? The first one in my family to graduate college. And to really be in a corporate setting, essentially, right? And I consider that a success story. So I mentor other young individuals that are going towards that same path to provide them that motivation and understanding how key education is, right? And being successful in the world. So when you think about your journey, right, of SUMADI and how you were a visionary and a leader and developing that cutting edge technology, is there anything valuable for other entrepreneurs that you could share for them looking to disrupt established markets?
I would say, resiliency. That is the one key word. I learned that here in Laureate as well, resiliency, right? I mean, our dreams will always come with challenges. It's not going to be easy. The difference is going to be on how resilient you are to embrace those challenges. And I said, embrace the challenges, right? Because that is how you have to see things, right? You never know what is going to come tomorrow when it comes to a challenge for your business. But if you feel passionate and you feel that you're creating a positive impact on individuals around the world, and you believe in yourself, and you understand pretty well that that's just how life is. There's a lot of challenges, right? Then you're going to be successful. It takes time also. We have to understand as entrepreneurs that things take time, right? But if you're diligent every single day, doing what you have to do and allowing your team to do what they are hired to do, that makes the huge difference. And as it comes when you go to the gym, right? You don't see results the next day. You actually have to continuously go to the gym for at least a month to start to see relevant changes, right? And it is only the accumulated, results that actually show significant results at the end, right? So resiliency is key, and patience, right? But you also have to trust. I would say for those people who are there trying to start a new business and they're struggling right now, I can assure you one thing. If you every day wake up and you decide to do what you have to do and what you can do during that day, and you do that continuously for a prolonged period of time, you will definitely see results. You don't need to understand how the results that you want are going to go about or come about. You just need to trust that they will, if you're diligent and you have the proper resiliency, Jen. I know this is a little bit more, I would say, on values, morale, and motivation, but it's the reality. As an entrepreneur, you need to have those things to trust on. There's nothing else that you can trust on, right? Just your vision and your passion and your ability to be resilient, I would say.
And I think not taking no for an answer the first go around, right? And figuring out various solutions to get around that no. That first no is just it's the first question you ask and continue to ask, or maybe you modify your approach, right?
Yeah, now that you bring that up, if I were to count the amount of times that people said no to me, I mean, I can say easily that it was probably more than 100 times. Even within Laureate, vendors, customers, partners, you would get a lot of no's all the time. You're gonna get a lot of no's. That's just part of the journey, right? But the yeses that you get are the ones that are going to change, that are going to be totally worth it, and actually will make the difference in your journey. And you just need to continue until you get the yeses, but the no's are part of the journey.
Awesome. Well, thank you. So I just wanted to give you the last word. Anything else you wanted to share in terms of, how SUMADI's been successful, or any last thoughts that you wanted to share to our listeners?
Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for everybody who's been listening to the podcast. This is the first podcast. And what we're trying to do here is to allow, the audience around the world to get to know a little bit more about SUMADI. We want to get more personal. This is key to our strategy, right? For people to understand where we are at, and also get closer, because as I said, this is an industry that is just right now starting, right? It's in a nascent phase, right? And we want to come to this industry as partners to our institutions, right? We do believe that we make a difference when we allow for education to be more accessible to as many people as possible around the world, right? So I'd invite people to reach out to us to take a look into the SUMADI.net website. There is a form over there that they can use to actually reach out to us. We will respond as soon as we can. We will get in touch with people, with institutions, even students, if they have comments and they want to know a little bit more about our tool and how we add value to their journey. We would be more than happy to have conversations, right? So I would just leave the audience with those final thoughts, Jen. And again, thank you everybody, and thank you, Jen, for being here with me today and allowing for this podcast to become a reality.
No, we appreciate your time today, and I've enjoyed our conversation immensely. And we know your time is valuable, so it was really, really exciting to explore, the world of proctoring solutions and hear directly from you as the founder, right? The potential of embracing innovation, right? So just as we conclude, we want to encourage all of our listeners to keep pushing those boundaries, seeking knowledge, fostering a mindset of continuous improvement, and embracing that power of innovation in your personal and professional endeavors. And really never underestimate the impact you can make on the world around you, as we heard today from Raul, with the creation of SUMADI. So if you've enjoyed our podcast today, like Raul said, subscribe to our SUMADI podcast. It's We Connect, Raw and Real Edition today. And don't forget to connect with us on social media to stay up to date on our latest news and upcoming episodes. You can find us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we want to thank you very much for tuning in with us today. And we will see you on our next episode. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jen, and thank you, everybody.